youtube.com/woodtalk/live. So you guys want to hear a funny story?
No.
I'm gonna tell you anyway. What do you think about that? All right,
Too bad.
Is it live? I don't want to
Yes, it's live.
cross the streams here.
Introducing Cool Vantage jeans from Wrangler Riggs.
Oh, it's Brett Favre again.
Brett Favre.
So Nicole's friend from college came to visit. She had there was a funeral for a friend
She
of hers.
hot? Tell me she's hot.
She's attractive.
Is that where the story's going?
No.
Should I just tune out and
She's
pretend that's where it's going?
she's actually tall too, so she
Can you take it there?
she doesn't like
Would you please?
You want me to go there? Okay, fine. But it does involve stuff, which is why the story's good. So
Stuff. It involves stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff and things.
So Mateo gravitates toward girls. Like when they stay with us, any female, generally speaking, he's going to just be like all over them. And
I'm
he's
sorry, Uncle Ian.
yeah, right. Uncle Ian, not so close with Uncle Ian, but any other woman in the family is fine. So he was just kind of climbing on her and hanging out with her, and it was cute. He was doing what little boys do, and totally innocent. Really, no malice or anything bad behind it. But just out of nowhere, just walks up to her in the middle of her having a conversation with Nicole and I, and just grabs her boob, burp, and like, as
Did
if
he make that noise?
He did. He kind of made a little bit of a boop sort of noise. Nicole looks at me and she's like, "That's your son." Like, hey, I didn't teach him to do that, so I had to take him in the other room. And as like one of those parenting moments, like, how do you handle this appropriately? Other than to say, yeah, obviously this is not a good thing to do. He's really scared of the concept of jail and police officers, so I let him know that if he does that, he could go to jail. And
It's true, though.
It's not far from the truth, right? So
That's pretty accurate.
it's a little bit of a, fabrication to an extent, but, gets the point home. So, yeah, it was so embarrassing. It's like, what do you...
Next boob will be when he's 38 now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't. My dad told me I'll get arrested. But I said it was okay. We're 24 years old now. Nope, can't do it.
Nope, I can still go to jail.
Oh, man, the sentence is just longer now. Okay, anyway, that's my stupid story. You guys ready? We got lots of voicemails. We're going to actually have to hustle through this, and I know we're all low energy right now, but there's a lot of crap in these show notes.
We should just do a show where we don't do anything and the audience does a show.
Okay, I like that. But there's 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 7 voicemails, 4 kickbacks, 3 voicemail. So
Wow.
They're just kickbacks, not questions.
4 and 3.
Should we dial back on the rest of the stuff in here?
We may want to. Does anybody want to kill their email question? Did you even find one yet, Matt?
Yeah, mine's quick.
Let's just move fast. Let's just
Have a
pack
quick one.
a lot of stuff into the show. Let's not dwell on anything. Can you
put that on top there?
Yeah, I was just about to yell at you for that. Dude, did you guys catch... I think I texted it to you, but did you happen to see any of the comments from the Boost God guys crew that like came to my latest video telling me I need to build his shoe shelves? Did you see any of that? Okay.
You didn't send it to me, no.
Okay, so the guy where I get my the new place that I get my tattoos done here in Littleton. I was getting it in the middle of the tattoo, and someone on Instagram goes, "Oh, no way! Another YouTuber I follow tattoos there, and his name's Teddy." So I was like, "Oh, well, that's pretty cool." So I asked my tattoo guys, like, "You guys have a Teddy here?" He's like, "Oh yeah, he's one of the tattooers. He does a YouTube series, basically a vlog, but he reviews like Adidas shoes, and he's really big into Adidas shoes, and there's a whole community, like the Boost community, around these types of shoes. It's like one of those things when people find out there's actually woodworking communities, and they're like, "What?
Right.
Who? What? Why?" It's kind of like that same thing when we're like, "Really? There's a community around this?" So out of nowhere, I didn't like even after that point. Out of nowhere, I get all these messages on one of my videos telling me something Boost God, because that's his nickname is Boost God. But I didn't know that at the time. I'm like, I don't think this is English. Like, I don't understand what these people are trying to say to me. And I was like, okay, so something happened. I'm trying to figure it out. I have no idea. So I'm kind of like backtracking to find the video where he had gone into the shop and the guy who did my tattoo was telling him the story, and he told it on the vlog. So people found out about this wood whisperer guy and then went to my page to try to encourage us to do a collaboration. But it was confusing as hell for a few minutes there.
What is going on?
Yeah, I was a little bit scared, frankly.
Nicole, people are speaking in tongues in the comments.
I don't understand it.
It's the YouTube rapture.
Yeah, exactly. But it also shows me just how many of these little niche things there are out there that are surviving and doing great with like huge communities that are stuff that's just not even remotely on our radar.
Oh, totally. Every time I go to a marketing conference and, people, what do you do? And I work for a lumber company. Oh, that's interesting. And, I also have a woodworking school. They're like, what now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, really?
Right.
And there's actually been a couple of times when I've been like pulled up, like in smaller conferences, like breakout type things. I've been like pulled up in front of the room or called on to illustrate how really, really, really small, obscure niches can survive. I'm like, gee, thanks. Okay. look, guys, look at the three-headed squirrel over here. He's surviving.
Oh,
Here's a guy that no one can believe he actually does this successfully.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to kind of feel like that in Vegas next week. Because I don't know how a guy online making content necessarily garners respect from these people who are just trying to make a living building things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping it goes well, but we'll see how that happens. All right, I think we're ready to roll. And someone wants to know why Matt doesn't have his apron on. Oddly enough, Shannon and I are wearing shop aprons for the show, which is kind of weird.
Because there is finish drying behind me.
I was just working. Matt was just... he's just taking his afternoon nap.
What kind of world do we live in now that my crappy apron is the Lee Valley apron? And, that's the one that I wear for finishing.
What kind of world do you live in is the question.
Fancier one. Yeah. Okay, designer apron boy.
Hey, I got it for free, all right? Come on. Would you turn it down and someone handed you a beautiful leather apron? No.
I don't know. Does it come
turn
with
around and
elastic
slap him
straps?
with it.
How dare you, sir? Smack him in the face with a little strip of leather. That'd be great.
It's got to come with assless chaps. If it doesn't have chaps, I'm not into it.
There you go.
All right. My parents used to keep a leather strip on top of the phone in New Jersey.
Thank God, that's where you went with that.
Yeah. And it was my brother and I lived and died by the threat of being hit with that strap. And it never happened. They never hit us, but it was always like we truly believed they were going to, and it kept us in line. It was great.
Power of intimidation.
See, I have an early woodworking memory that involves my father making a paddle.
Oh, a butt paddle?
Yeah.
Nice.
Fortunately, he broke it on my older brother, not me.
The Rogers family and their rock hard butts.
Yeah.
I actually helped to cut speed holes in it so that cut down on wind resistance. You could get higher velocity on the swing.
I like that.
I didn't know what I was doing. I had one of those hole saws. Like, can I cut holes in it? It'll swing better.
Okay, let's do a show. I think we've done a long enough pre-show today.
Sure.
All right, here we go.
Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are three guys who love the smell of shellac in the morning. Mark, Shannon, and Matt.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 399 for July 17th, 2017. On today's show, we're talking about should you bottom out your tenons, plywood potato chips, and plywood workbench. What about a plywood workbench? There's no punctuation or anything to let me know where that's going.
Stay tuned to find out.
Oh, it's a teaser.
Ooh.
I love
Wow.
it. Very nicely done, Carmona. I want to mention that today's show is sponsored by Brusso Hardware. Be sure to check out Brusso's Photo Extra newsletter. It's a weekly update from Brusso dedicated to customer-submitted photos. Brusso's customers work on detailed projects including ring boxes, humidors, keepsakes, gun boxes, and furniture. It's an excellent source of inspiration for your next project. The newsletter is short, quick, has great photos, and it's delivered right to your inbox. So go sign up at brusso.com/photoextra. That's all one word, brusso.com/photoextra. We'd also like to thank some folks who helped us out over on Patreon. It's patreon.com/woodtalk. Lee Corboy, Carl Regan, Corey Ward, Antonio Ramos, and Bryce Dexter. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate the support. And if you help us out, you get some cool little kickbacks in return. And we also mention your name at the top of the show, make you famous. So that's a lot of fun. So again, check it out. It's patreon.com/woodtalk. And I do want to mention very quickly, we just started, and by we, I mean me, a Instagram Wood Talk account. And I'm still not sure why, but here's the last couple of weeks. We've been getting a lot of Photoshops and just funny images, or like I've been inclined to post things like, I don't know, the check that I sent to Cremona because it had like a funny thing on it. So little things like that. And I'm like, none of this is really appropriate anywhere else. It's very Wood Talk specific.
Anywhere at all.
Anywhere at all. Technically, it's not even appropriate for Wood Talk. It's really just a waste of time is what it is.
Man.
So I figured, hey, why not? Let's start this, Instagram thing. And if we have something goofy or funny or relevant to the show, we'll post it. Can't promise it's going to be useful. I can promise it's going to be stupid. So you definitely
just going to be a channel of screenshots of the Skype conversation.
Yeah, that. And people always want to know, like we reference all the time, our text string. So if there's like something funny specifically in the text, maybe we'll screen cap that, put it up there.
Oh boy!
Watch what you say, guys. Actually, I think I'm the one who would get in the most trouble with.
Yeah, I'm more worried about you.
If we went public with some of the crap that I'm typing away there. So, anyway, check that out on Instagram, and those will also post to Twitter if you follow us there. That's fine too. Okay, so let's get to what's on the bench. I am still plugging away at these chairs, just not getting a whole lot of shop time to get into it, but it's coming along slowly. So I'm working on the crest rails and the backrests now, and then I'll be moving on to, sculpting the shape of the backrest, doing some of the joinery, and hopefully we'll be done with that one soon. But probably not, because you know what? I'm going away for a few days, and that's going to slow me down. So Tuesday I leave for Vegas. Wednesday all day I'll be at AWFS, and then Thursday we're flying back home to get home to the kids, and it should be a pretty awesome day. I know Cremona, you're going as well. Do you have anything specific planned? Any events that you are going to?
I'm going to be going to the Wood Whisperer presentation and the meet and greet afterwards.
Great, I'm going to have a heckler.
It'd be really fun to meet him and tell him how he's influenced my life.
Yes.
Mostly negatively.
I'll sign stuff for you if you want to bring it.
I'll bring you some checks.
Yeah, there you go. Some blank checks. That'll be good. That's a good one.
Wow.
Awesome. So Cremona, done, yes, very well done. Cremona will be there. I'll be there. I'm going to be busy with sessions and stuff, but I'll try to be walking the floor as much as I can. You may even see Matt and I, holding hands and skipping down the walkways. You just never know at these things. So
long walkway.
Yes, there's a lot of walking to do, which is why we're not going to walk. We're going to skip.
Yeah,
it's only natural.
We should get like golf carts, or just one. You can drive around that.
Or like hoverboards.
Oh,
wouldn't those be great?
Yes.
If I don't know if you guys have tried one of those, but you will fall on your butt like multiple times and probably hurt yourself until you figure out.
I have not tried it, but I think that'd be a fun thing for us to try together.
Yes, let's do that. I anticipate that going well. So, yes, if anyone happens to be going to the show, try to find us. We'll both be there. I think Matt's going to probably be there a lot longer than I am. My primary day is Wednesday, but Matt is taking a little bit more of a leisurely trip, and we'll be there till what, Sunday?
Leisurely, yes. Yes, I'll be going back on Sunday.
Going to Vegas to have some fun. Nice.
Uh-huh.
All right, so that's it for me. Matt, what do you got going on?
Not a whole lot this week. Been trying to get the high boy thing rolling along here. Trying to get through some of this, I'll say, boring introductory content.
Yeah.
But essential.
It's not boring. It's good.
Essential.
I'm enjoying watching it.
I don't know. It's boring for me. A lot of boring stuff. A lot of chit-chatting.
Well, you're from the YouTube generation. It's to be expected. You don't like talking and information.
No. The problem I have with it is that I'm the one doing the talking.
Oh, okay.
And for whatever reason, like the one I just did about the history or the design elements or whatever, I have not had so much trouble saying the most simple, basic things in the longest time.
Really? Just certain words are getting hung up on?
Like, I mean, those videos, they should be quick to make. Like, there really shouldn't be much editing. There shouldn't be a whole lot of, like, messing up. You're just having a conversation about this thing.
Right.
And I kid you not, it took me 2 hours to shoot that video because I quit every single time I try to say one line. Something stupid comes out of my mouth for whatever reason. Forget what I'm saying. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna do something else for a while and come back to it. It was rough, but we're moving along here, and I'm trying to get everything set up so we can kind of get into some more interesting stuff as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, I think these things, it's
some actual woodworking.
Yeah, this isn't like a Netflix thing where everything is just dumped out at once. We do put them out weekly, so you do have to kind of sit through those, like the ones that are building up the project, where normally if you have access to all of them at once, you kind of breeze through those and finally get to the real meat of it very quickly. But it does seem to drag a little bit in those first couple of weeks, but nature of the beast.
Yeah, I guess so. But that's about it, really. I'm just kind of trying to get everything situated because I'll be at AWFS. I'm leaving Wednesday morning, and I'm coming back Sunday morning. So I'm not going to be here doing much anything this week. So I kind of got to get everything situated before I go.
Yeah, you do. We got a video on Friday, so I'm gonna crank that out.
Yeah, it seemed like that for a while.
Nice. All right, Shannon, what about you?
I'm putting the fourth coat of Endurovars on my blanket chest behind me, drying as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, I love Endurovar. It is my absolute favorite finish. I've said that for a while, but we've had this conversation about, when you produce content, you kind of feel compelled to do different things and try different finishes. And I kind of don't want to do that anymore. Like, why would I want to change to something else? This works so well.
Mm-hmm.
And my general style, if you will, is to compose with the wood and not really play with colors or pigments or anything like that. So I want a finish that's going to give me, a little bit of warmth, but stay as close to the wood as possible. And every time I use this stuff, I'm just blown away, first of all, by how freaking easy it is. But like, it builds relatively quickly. I finished the second coat and I was like, should I go on? And I was like, I gotta go on, right? You can't just put 2 coats of finish on this. So I put the third one on. I was like, man, that looks even better. Now I'm glad I put the third one on. And I just diluted the fourth coat a little bit to make it flow out. And it's like, holy crap, it just gets better every time I apply it. And I don't know, man. I just don't see the need to go anywhere else. So anybody who's listening, what am I missing? What finish do I really need to try? Because the bar is raised really, really high. I've used Armor Seal. I've used all kinds of shellac. I've used lacquer. This just rocks. The color that I get from it, the ease of it, and just how, like, the tiniest bit of sanding with 600 grit between coats, and it kind of mellows everything out. And, it's lovely. It's like butter.
I think that's the thing with finishing. It's not, so many of the finishes we have access to, they do just fine. But if you can find one that gives you the look you want and is, something you can apply successfully, you're done. You don't necessarily have to keep searching for different types of finishes. If you have one that works, keep going with it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And you buy a gallon of it, and then you're kind of stuck with that finish.
For a little while. Yeah. Nice.
It's too expensive to let that go bad.
That is true. Okay, what's new? We got some stuff. And let's see, we got one here from Justin. He says, I haven't done any other research on this guy, but besides being an amazing musician, my eye was always drawn to the craftsmanship and different take on standard guitar building in every video I watched. And this is a YouTube video that I have not seen yet, so I can't really say much about it. I'm sure it's pretty good, okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to prepare, Mark.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, see, what you have to learn is that while Matt's talking, you can preview videos and things. It works really well.
Yeah, but he doesn't talk, so I have no time.
There is a flaw in this.
So do it really quickly.
Okay.
This next one comes from Chris. He says, it's a cool video of what the rings on a tree trunk slice sound like on a light reading record player. So I did check this out, and at first I thought I was listening to the Concord Sonata by Charles Ives, because it's very similar. 20th century atonal style cluster music. But I was a little skeptical listening to this. So then I scrolled down into YouTube comments, the dark and scary world of YouTube comments. There's a lot of other people calling shenanigans on this. I'm uncertain just how accurate it is, because there's a lot of, like, where did he establish his, like, beginning point? There's no frame of reference in this thing, and I don't know. There's just a lot of kind of computer generated compositions that I've also heard, because this style of music is a whole thing that's been around, since the early 1900s. I don't know. I'm just not exactly sure that that's exactly what's happening. Is the tree trunk is creating tones? So call me a skeptic.
So you think there
If you
might
like
be some
20th century music? Go check it out. It's pretty rocking. You can't dance to it, but it's good.
So you think there might be like some digital magic filling in gaps and
Yeah, it just feels like it. It feels like there's a little bit of you know, I don't know, tonal sampling or something like that going on and filling in. It's like in Jurassic Park where they had to fill in the gaps in the DNA with frogs.
frog
and stuff.
DNA. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
in order.
great analogy. That's good.
Yeah, I try.
Yes, you do. Next, we have this one from Dr. Alex. It's a little article about Rick Hale. He even has St. Offerman on the wall. Rick makes these wooden gear clocks, or like wooden clocks. No, these are pretty popular. Like a few years ago, maybe like 7 years ago, I feel like they were pretty popular. They have like all with the wooden gears, and it's all made out of wood, and it's like all wound. I started making one of these back in the day, but I realized that was a pain in the butt, and I got like a bunch of the gears made, and then I never finished that thing. But these are some awesome clocks with like a lot of really cool intricacies in the design, and also he has some really ridiculously big ones. Like,
Yeah, they're huge.
Like 4 feet in diameter or something ridiculous, maybe bigger than that.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, they could replace the clock tower with it when they save the clock tower and keep Marty McFly from going back in time or Back to the Future, depending on which one you watch.
You know, that's a good question. If the clock tower was struck by lightning, but everything was made out of wood, would they have been able to send Marty back? I don't think so.
I don't know, but you get that cool like thing where the lightning bolts go across the wood that's all over.
Right. It would look beautiful, that's for sure. It'd make a great YouTube video. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so that's very cool. Big clocks. Very neat. Let's get to our kickback here. We've got actually 4 voicemail kickbacks, so let's sit back and enjoy. First one's from Adam.
Hey, Mark, Shannon, and Matt. This is Adam from San Diego. Hey, got a little kickback for you from the last episode. Actually, it's mainly from Mark. Mark, you've spoken in the past about your home in Arizona as home crap home. And after the recent conversation of dehydrated and rehydrated poop, I think we all understand why it was home crap home. In fact, it wasn't so much about Arizona as it was kind of all about you. But that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to let the people of Colorado know that as soon as Mark decides to stop picking up his dog poop, you too might be considered home crap home. Anyway, just kidding. Love you guys, and thanks for the great show. Keep it up.
Nice. That was great. And you know what? I'll tell you something. My dogs keep crapping on the patio. I have to clean it up like every couple of hours. They're little poop machines, and how do you ignore it when it's on your patio? You can't. If it's in the grass, you could like, oh, I didn't see it. Maybe Nicole will find it and pick it up, but it doesn't work that way on the patio.
Mateo will be old enough soon.
Right. We'll see about that. All right, next one here is from Colin.
Hey guys, this is Colin, the sweaty guy from Chicago again. Got kickback for you this time. Mark said that he needed a nickname, and I had some thoughts on that. See, nickname should have several parts. It should reference parts of Mark's character, his love of gaming and woodworking. It should reference how long he's been on YouTube and a part of the community in general. It should be gently and lovingly derogatory, but only slightly. It should be obnoxiously long to say, because it was the last nickname that we came up with and we were running out of ideas. So, may I suggest, therefore, the glorious, oily God Emperor of YouTube woodworking. I know, it's not great, but hey, we haven't heard a lot that's better yet. What do you guys think?
That's how I want to go. You know, we haven't heard anything better, so let's go with that.
Man.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. All right, let's see. Next one here. Our good buddy Robert DeVries. He's got to give Shannon a little bit of crap.
Bring it.
Shannon. You, of all people, I thought you would have gotten the musical reference when I started out with Joe Walsh. But no, guess not. then again, you didn't know much about fungus, yet you tried to teach us about spalted maple. Then you said you don't know anything about botany, but that's plant life. What are trees? Well, yeah, you're in the lumber business, I guess. I don't know how to think about that one either. I'm just really disappointed, and I'm a little... I'm kind of broken. Up.
Our emails are getting better and better. Or voicemails.
Seriously, this is a downward trend right now.
It's a show in and of itself. Yeah, it's good. You know, he's from the area that Matt is, right? Not Cremona, but Vanderlist.
Yeah.
I noticed there are very specific, and I probably can't even point them out, but it's not even so much an accent, it's inflection in his voice that reminds me totally of Vanderlist. So it must be a regional thing.
I can get that.
Interesting. Okay, so we got one more here from Kyle.
This is Kyle from Plainfield, Illinois, and just want to share something with you real quick. So I just bought my first Waterstone, and I just sharpened a chisel for the first time. And I'm kind of wishing now that, and I know it should be common sense, but I do wish that someone would have just like mentioned, don't scrape your fingers on the Waterstone, because I got 7 Band-Aids on the tips of my fingers right now. And I got blood on everything. It was a complete just mess. So for those of you who have never used a Waterstone, you've been warned. Thanks, guys. Love the show.
Interesting.
Yeah, see, we could have told him that all day long and he still would have done it, but you're going to remember it now. See, so we're doing you a favor.
Yes. It's much more poignant of a lesson if you actually draw blood.
Yeah, empirical experience.
Okay. So some more kickback here. This is in text form. Steven wrote in and says, howdy, folks. Episode 397, you discussed whether you use epoxy to fill the gaps in a cutting board and focused on health effects. I wouldn't use epoxy on a cutting board because it would damage my knives. Wood cutting boards, especially end grain boards, are ideal for knives because they are soft on the edge. A line of epoxy would be a very hard spot in a soft medium. This will concentrate stresses on the knife edge and could ding or nick the blade. It is similar to working wood with very different hardnesses in the early and late stage growth, such as Douglas fir. So there you go. Good point.
So what if you're cutting meat and you hit a bone?
Well, that's why you don't hit bones with good blades.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Duh.
Continue.
Like, how do you not cut your finger on a Waterstone? Don't put your finger on the Waterstone.
Yeah, come on, Matt.
Simple cause and effect, my friend.
I told you it's an off day for me today.
Oh, well. So this next kickback comes from Keith. Hi, guys. Just this morning, I listened to another woodworking-related podcast that you happened to mention in one of your shows. My first, other than yours. I strayed. Forgive me. Oh. But wow, what a difference. I won't trash that show, but listing what I found as shortcomings, I don't know that I want to read this.
Yeah, well, how did this even end up in here? This is...
I don't know.
This is kind of mean.
He likes what he likes what we do, and we are good at what we do. And I'm glad he doesn't mention what the other show is because, wow. Enough said. Thanks, Keith. We appreciate that.
I feel like Shannon wrote this and sent this in under the name of Keith. You think?
That's my pseudonym.
Hey, we've been doing this for a while.
My Game of Thrones erotic fan fiction under the name Keith.
Nice.
Actually, is there such a thing? Isn't Game of Thrones?
I was going to say, isn't it already at that level?
Non-erotic Game of Thrones fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Just dragons, no boobs and dragons.
Yeah, we watched the first episode last night, and the thing comes up that says brief nudity, and I'm like, brief? What show are we watching here?
Wow, they're slacking.
Okay, Matt, you got the last one.
This is from Peter. It is a nickname. It is Poops McDomino. I'm assuming that's from March.
I actually like that one the best.
Poops McDomino.
I wish I was Irish, though. It would make it even that much better. Poops McDomino. Oh, we're still looking. We'll find one. When it catches, we'll know it.
I think that one's winning.
That's so far. I would agree with you. Poops McDomino. Okay, so we've got some voicemail questions here. First one from Matt.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm just calling in Sorry about that. I was watching a video of a guy dancing around his workbench with a saw in his hand. Anyway,
old school Shannon.
To the Jet
Vintage
10-inch
stuff right there.
planer and joiner combo. I'm new to woodworking, and I've got limited shop space and limited funds, and I thought that this would be a good way to get into something that allowed me to perfectly flatten boards without using hand tools, which is what I've been doing up until now, but I'm not really great at it. Anyway, I noticed in one of the videos that Matt had posted that he had something that looked similar to it, and I was wondering if you guys had any experience on this and if I was going to get any problems out of using something that's only $500 to start off with joining and planing. Love the show. Keep at it, guys. Thanks.
What do you say about that, Matt?
I had the 8-inch version of that. I had it for a little under a year before I got the big old jointer I have now. I think it's, I don't. A lot of people like to poo-poo it because it is kind of poo-poo a little bit, but you have to kind of understand what it is, and it's not. Understand what it's not. It's not like a big old stationary jointer. It's got really short beds. It doesn't have any way to adjust the tables to be coplanar without some crazy amount of disassembly and shimming in there. But will it get you by until you get something bigger and save you a lot of money on lumber? Absolutely. That's how I got to where I am right now, by getting into something like this, which wasn't much money. I got the floor model at Woodcraft for like $250, and I saved enough money in like the first 2 projects to pay for that anyway. So just keep in mind what it is. You're not gonna be able to joint super long stuff, like anything longer than 3 to 4 feet at the most, unless the thing is pretty straight to begin with. It's gonna be pretty difficult to get flat and straight with that thing. But just keep in mind what it is and what it's not. And be happy, I guess.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't care what you like.
I think it is because of what you mentioned, like that lack of adjustability. It's going to be so frustrating to use. Like, did you not get to points where you just like, I actually am not jointing this edge?
Look what I have now.
Yes, which shows me how you overcompensated because you were so frustrated by it.
I wanted to joint like 8 to 12-foot boards.
Yeah, and that thing would just fall over on the ground. It'd be like, no.
You can't joint a slab on that thing. It'll fall right over. You got to bolt that thing down.
Yeah. Well, when I looked at it, I remember there were parts that were held on with pieces that just had too much flex in them. So even if you had something fairly coplanar with your tables, just the slightest amount of pressure moves it and knocks it out. So it's like it's completely ineffective as a jointer. Planer is not so bad. The planer I think you could probably get by with, but for jointing operations on that thing, man, I just think that would be frustrating.
It would be because you have the nice stuff now.
Maybe.
Coming from nothing.
It's like the same. It's the same logic. It's the same logic as you throw a hand plane, like an old, beat up, out of shape, horribly, not tuned up at all hand plane, and give it to a person and say make some shavings, versus giving them a Lee Nielsen that's just been tuned up that's absolutely perfect. Granted, they can tune that one up to get there, certainly, but you throw that in their hands, it's incredibly discouraging for them to be like, well, this thing tears out. What the heck would I ever want to use this for? You know what I mean? So they have to be able to get that tool to work in order to not just be frustrated by the craft or sort of blame the craft for this whole thing sucks because of this one tool. I don't know. It's just, but you're right. If he's got no other choice, or if that's one way to at least get his feet, dipped in a little bit, maybe. But man, it's just going to be frustrating. He's going to hate woodworking.
Just understand you're going to hate it.
There you go. If you go into it expecting to hate it, you'll be fine. That's a good point. Okay, so we got another voicemail question here from Matt Brown.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm just calling in
What am I doing?
Sorry.
I was like, someone else did the same exact joke.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
Hey, that's like the 4th person to watch that video.
No, the next guy's name is Matt as well, and it just confused me. So, all right, here we go.
Hey guys, Matt here in Illinois. Got into woodworking about a year ago, and I've been exploring all the different tools and techniques that are available to me. And recently picked up a fixer-upper, admittedly low to maybe mid-level scroll saw if I'm lucky, Dremel scroll saw for like $25. Fiddled around with it, got it up and running, and I've been trying some different projects. Recently, I've been working on projects that are people's names, and the way I've been doing it is the bottom of the nameplate is stylized, and I'll print off something off my computer, glue it to the wood, cut it out, and then do the same thing with a thinner piece of stock that sits on top of it to make a nice raised look to it. The problem I've been running into is a fewfold. I've been gluing paper down to it using some Elmer's spray adhesive. The problem, though, is that when the scroll saw blade gets to the end, it starts to pull the paper up and it starts flopping around, and it makes it really hard to see the line that I'm supposed to cut on, and as a result, my lines get a little bit skewed. But then, more to the point, when I take the paper off, when I'm finally done cutting, there's a lot of adhesive left behind on the wood. And, recently on a 6-inch wide piece of wood that was maybe 32 inches long, I blew through 3 or 4 sanding pads on my orbital sander trying to get this glue up, and it just kept gumming up and, was flying through them. I eventually had to get some really heavy grit, with a sanding block to really gouge into it to get that adhesive off. But of course, now when I'm trying to paint it, well, you can see those gouges. So my questions are, is there a better way to adhere a template to the wood, and is there, so that it doesn't, flop around? And then is there a better way to get the adhesive off once you do that? Love the show. Thanks for everything you do. Bye.
Okay. I have one solution, but I don't think it solves both problems. You can simply put down like masking tape onto the substrate first and make sure you kind of coat the whole surface with it, and then put your template on top of that. So your spray adhesive is going onto the tape, and then your template goes on top of that. And then when you're done, you just pull, all of the gooey crap is between the tape and the template. And then you could pull that up, and all you're left is maybe with a little bit of tape residue, if anything. I don't think it's going to help him with his edges peeling up, but that would certainly make the cleanup a whole lot easier. You won't have any of that like contact cement rubbery material on your actual substrate material. So you guys have any other suggestions beyond that?
I was just going to say, like, use naphtha or something and try to remove as much of it as you can with a solvent, and then use like a card scraper.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what you do, the sandpaper is going to gum up. I mean, it's going to
be a mess.
Clog super, super fast, no matter what the grit is. And then if you go too low, you end up with the problem that he had with like massive gouges in the wood. Yeah. I'm guessing the problem with it, the stuff peeling up, is because it's like right near the edge of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's just not enough whatever surface area to hold the wood in. So you could actually follow what you were talking about, Mark. You got the tape on the bottom. How about tape the actual edges, like over the corner, so that you've got kind of a little extra reinforcing that folds over that edge, over the corner, and then whatever it is, that last quarter of an inch or whatever, you may have to kind of draw that in, redraw your lines in or whatever. But you've got kind of a double layer that bridges the gap, if you will, between the edge of the pattern and the edge of the wood. Or just make your pattern a little bit longer and spray around the edge and actually fold the pattern around the board. Maybe even go all the way around to the opposite face. That would probably give you a little bit more surface area to grab onto.
I wonder if it's pulling up because it's near the edge, or if he's just saying as he's cutting, it tends to want to pull it up. You know what I mean? As he's severing and cutting through, maybe it's pulling on both sides. But that's just an adhesive issue, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe try a different adhesive or put more on. I mean, some of those do really well when you apply it to just one face. Others require you to apply it to both the bottom of the template and the wood itself. So it could be some of that. That's always kind of a pain because the paper template like curls up and everything.
Yeah,
you've got
totally.
to be really quick there, but I don't know. I think strengthening with blue tape, because as we know, blue tape solves every problem.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one here is from Ryan.
Hey guys, this is Ryan calling from Maine, the land of Shannon's illustrious secondary home. I have a quick question about figured wood, and since one of you mills your own lumber, one of you works at a lumber yard, and one of you plays a lot of video games, the three of you seemed like good folks to ask. What exactly during the growth process causes figuration, and is there any way to identify whether a tree will have figure just by looking at the exterior? I've seen examples in my firewood pile where you could see figure underneath the bark, but is there anything you can see while the bark is still on to indicate some figure? I've tried reading about this in various places, but I invariably end up more confused than I did at the outset. I really enjoy the show, and thanks for all that you do. Take care.
Nice. All right, who wants to tackle this one?
Ow. Major thunderclap. Scary. Yeah, you can see figure. I mean, Mark. What's your name? Harry Giggler.
Don't ask me. I just play video games.
That guy. You've got a lot more experience looking at bark in log form.
Woof.
But I mean, I know that I guess it depends upon the species, right? But you can generally see the wave and the curl in the bark. Really, actually, I'll say my experience is the opposite. Really straight bark tells me I've got really nice straight grain underneath.
Yep.
Matt's nodding, by the way. For those of you listening, Matt hasn't figured out this is an audio-only show.
He's still learning. He's new.
There's both, okay? There's a video stream now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for those of you listening, Matt doesn't care about you. He only cares about you.
Okay. I like where this is going. This is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Wow. Anyway, so yes, in a few of my slabbing videos, I kind of go through the log before we cut it up. I point out some of the areas on the surface of the log that will kind of translate into figure once the board is cut. Curl is pretty easy to see. You can see that kind of undulating in the bark most of the time. Curl, you can also find that especially underneath the limb, so that's compression figure. Same kind of look though, but you can see the bark and the wood undulating underneath there. On maple trees, sometimes you can see the bark forms more of an X pattern as opposed to a straight pattern with the bark, and the X's are usually indicative of the fibers underneath doing something weird. So there's that as well. It's just kind of like one of these weird things. Like the weirder the bark looks, the weirder the tree looks, chances are the more figure there is in there.
Like when you look at like a burl from the outside, it really looks very distorted and messed up. And then of course the material inside is amazing looking, but it is really jacked up, and that's kind of what makes it look so cool.
Yeah, and I think finding a tree without figure, like the nice straight grain, looking at that kind of gives you a baseline to go, oh, okay, that tree, as Mark said, is jacked up. Because look at how curly that bark is compared to like the normal, quote, normal straight running. I just went Long Island there for a second and put a hard G at the end of that. Yeah, as far as, didn't he ask why? Like, why does figure form?
No. But why don't you tell us?
Good, because I don't think people actually know on a lot of instances. I think it's tension wood and compression wood, as Matt said. But sometimes it's what's the word I'm looking for? Like healing, like as it goes around a wound or something like that, or fungal infections, bug infections, all kinds of stuff that can cause it. But I read something about bird's eye being an infection that results in bird's eye maple, but I've also read counter accounts saying you're full of it, you want to be botanist.
With bird's eye, the one thing I've heard to would like make that form is that the tree grew under a lot of stress.
Yeah, that would make sense.
That's the one I heard. So like really poor ground condition, like it's growing like on a rock, that kind of stuff. That's supposed to increase the likelihood that it's got bird's eye.
Interesting.
But it's one of those goofy things. It's like, who knows? Yeah. Unless it's compression figure, it's pretty much whatever.
If we knew, then people would start like artificially creating figured wood, and then figured wood would lose all meaning.
It's true. And then some species are just more prone to it. There's that too.
Yeah. Some species
That's
are
cool
wacky.
Stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing like, I don't know, a plantation farm of bird's eye walnut. That'd be nice.
You ever seen bird's eye walnut?
Only a couple times. That's why I want to have a whole farm of it.
Yeah, I got a block of that somewhere around here. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right. Well, if you want to send us a voicemail, you can do that. Just use your voice memo app on your device and send it to woodtalkonline@gmail.com, and we'll play it on the show. We will play anything and everything, including this.
Sure.
Shannon's Lumber Industry Update.
Oh, yeah. What you got, Shannon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this week from the lumberyard. It's actually inspired by a couple people. I've had the question about African mahogany in the past, and basically the theme is always like, what is wrong with my African mahogany? Or, what's the deal with African mahogany?
With African mahogany?
And then Jerry wrote in, and it kind of reminded me of something. And actually, I think he wrote in trying to ask Matt this question, but I stole it. So
great. No wonder I couldn't find any good questions this week.
which I do find funny, because Jerry's asking Matt a question about going to a lumber yard to pick up rough sawn lumber. And as we all know,
what would he know?
Matt knows nothing about that. So
there once.
Yeah, one time. So Jerry says, I never really thought about before until I picked up some rough sawn lumber this past week. I noticed numbers stamped on a few pieces and the ends of some painted different colors. Can you tell us what these mysterious markings might tell the logger / seller / buyer? So this relates back to the African mahogany, and I tend to I call African mahogany Kaya. That's the genus, because I hate calling it African mahogany because it has so little to do with mahogany. You can have a love or hate relationship with it, and that's because most people know it as a conglomerate species. There are hundreds of different species in the Kaya genus that are marketed it as African mahogany. Depending on where it grows in Africa, the range is enormous, but they're all different species. You know, the Senegal stuff is Kaya senegalensis. The Ivory Coast is Kaya ivorensis, et cetera, et cetera. And some of them are better than others, and some of them are exported more than others, but they're still felled over enormous distances, and they all end up traveling to basically one of two ports in West Africa and shipped out from there. So they kind of all get like jammed together at the port and repackaged in containers and things like that. So you've got a container of maybe 30,000 board feet of African mahogany, and there could be 12 different species crammed in there. So, and I hate to say it, but like with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 of those species, the rest of them just crap. Like really, really low density, heavily interwoven, kind of rowy grain with lots of punky soft stuff in it that if you've ever had a bad piece of African mahogany, you know what I'm talking about. It tears out when you look at it wrong, and the color is all over the place. It's usually really, really light. You put finish on it and it doesn't blotch. It like falls apart. It's just terrible, terrible stuff. And you can't get it to smooth out no matter what. But then you get like really good African mahogany, like the Ivory Coast stuff or the Senegal stuff, and it's just a joy to work. And oftentimes it can be confused with genuine mahogany, which is where the whole African mahogany thing comes from. But it's such a rare thing to run into consistency. So if you go to your lumber yard and you're digging through the African mahogany racks, you probably are looking at 8 to 9 different species. And if you're lucky enough that there are colors painted on the ends, and again, that's just end sealing. That's all it is a latex paint to slow down the drying. But every mill is going to use a different color scheme, or in some instances, every exporter will use a different color scheme because some of the mills ship it to the port from the forest, you know, without any in painting done on it, just sawn into boards, and they will often seal it at the port. Those different colors will mean absolutely nothing to you. You know, you can learn the different colors and which exporter it comes from, but that won't tell you anything. But it will tell you that more than likely, there's a greater percentage that's going to be the same species if you're getting the same colors picked on the end. Likewise, the number stamped on the end, they can refer to a lot of different things. They can refer to lots. They can also refer to chain of custody numbers, dependent upon the mill. So regardless of what that number is, if you can find matching numbers, you have a better chance that probably came out of the same log, or if nothing else, certainly is the same species because it was felled within the same concession. So there's every chance that it's going to be a similar species. There are certainly concessions that cross regional boundaries and you'll get different species in the same concession, but that's much, much rarer than the example of it being a single species. So look at those colors and play like the pretty matching game and try to get all the boards with the same pretty paint on the end or the same markings on the end, and you'll end up with actual a species of African mahogany.
Nice.
No guarantees, though. It's kind of crazy how many different species of African mahogany are out there.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay, let's get into our emails. Got one here from Wayne. He says, I have a question about mortises. I'd like to ask the experts. Since I don't know any, I thought I would ask you guys. Do tenons need to bottom out, or should the mortise be a little bit deeper than the tenon would reach to allow for glue puddling, small pieces of debris, shoulder seating, etc.? By the way, love my drill press mortise attachment. Other than mounting the yoke, I find no difference from a dedicated mortiser. By the way, love the show. Only wish it were longer and a new episode every day. Wayne. Oh, that would be a lot of work.
I don't wish that.
No, that'd be rough. Okay.
What's our Patreon number for that? Every day.
$50,000.
I was gonna say 55, but you know, I'm greedy.
For the daily Wood Talk show, whoo baby, that'd be a lot. Okay. So bottoming out the tenon in the mortise, this may vary depending on who you ask. For me, I don't really think it matters that much in terms of strength. Most of your strength from that joint is coming from the cheek of your tenon meeting up with the inside wide faces of the mortise. So if you bottom out, or if you don't bottom out, it's not really going to impact the strength very much. But you are forcing a lot of glue. I think he's kind of, he almost has the answer to his own question here, because he's stating all the reasons why you would want to leave a little bit of a gap there if there's any debris, glue squeeze out. You just have to have a place for some of that stuff to go. So I wouldn't put like a giant gap down there, but if there's a 16th or a 30-second gap, that's fine, because what I usually find is after you do a dry assembly and everything's good, you put some glue on there, and suddenly if you are forcing tons of glue and there's just not any room for it to go, you may not be able to close that joint together and get those shoulders to be nice and flush all the way around. If you have it just kind of like, if it's a real piston fit, it's going to be really difficult to get that thing in there. So for me, I like to leave a little bit of a gap. I'm not scientific about it. It's just a little bit, 16th at the most likely, and have never had any negative problems as a result of it.
What he said.
Thank you.
Woo. Shoulder seating is important.
It is.
That's what you see.
It's all that matters.
Yep. You done?
Of course, I'm not talking anymore, so I must be done.
I don't know what you're doing over there.
Yes, you do. You're watching.
You kind of do, actually.
Oh, what an amateur.
All right, this next one is from Rory. I have commitment issues.
Right keep going.
I'm trying to answer a question.
Ignore him. You have to keep going.
Okay. I have commitment issues. I have a workbench. It's a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood over a 2x4 frame. It is time to upgrade to a better bench, but I doubt that I'll be able to get it right the first time, so I want to build a bench on the cheap. To keep the initial investment low, I decided to build it out of 2x4s. I went to the local big box store and sorted through the 2x4 inventory. The stock was either too crooked or had too many knots. I looked at the 2x8s and 4x4s, and they had the same issues. Looking for an alternative, I stumbled across a stack of poplar plywood. Per cubic inch of usable wood, it would only be 10% more expensive than 2x4s. We glue up strips 3.5 inches wide to make a 3.5 inch thick surface. What do you think about plywood? What do you think about plywood as a cheap alternative for a workbench? Is this a good compromise? I say go for it. Other than the fact that it's going to be a little more glue up kind of stuff, because you have like half as thick material, you have a little more glue ups to do. I don't see an issue with it. It might be a little softer, maybe, but it's a workbench, and you say it's a stepping stone, so I don't think it matters. I think go for it. It would look cool. As long as you don't have too many voids in that plywood, it should look pretty cool.
Good deal.
Sure. I like it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Do it.
We've all had plywood benches.
Isn't that all a laminated workbench is? It's just really, really thick plies.
Right. Yes. It's a good way to look at it.
I just happen to have 2-inch thick plies in my plywood workbench.
With the plywood, you got the cross grain situation thing there, so you may even have more stability, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon, it's not quite the same, but you got some end grain in the top. You got some end grain presenting itself on the top of your workbench. It might be a little different.
I'm getting a stern talking to from that. I love it.
I don't think you understand what plywood is, Shannon.
No, I really don't.
He probably doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't have
I
enough
really
experience.
don't, which is why this question is about plywood.
Oh, man.
Thank you, Matt, for setting that up so beautifully.
You are so incredibly welcome. Let me try to talk over you while you try and answer this.
Okay, good luck with that.
This
comes from Steven. Steven dropped this on our Patreon page, so thank you for being a patron, Steven. I recently built a large storage cabinet for a friend that was 4 foot by 6 foot by 21 inches deep with doors. In an effort to keep the cost low and the weight down, I built everything out of 1/2-inch Baltic birch ply. I live in California. The weather is hot and dry. Plywood doors I made potato chipped badly. Is this normal for high quality plywood? Was the plywood I used too thin for such large doors? Well, there's a possibility that it could be too thin, certainly. But what the thing that jumped out at me on this is he's talking about using Baltic birch plywood, and then he asks, is this normal for high quality plywood? Baltic birch is not high quality plywood. That may be the first issue right there. If you look at the grading system of plywood, with A being the best face and 1 being the best back face, most plywood, Baltic birch plywood or shop grade plywood, is about a D3. The really good stuff might be a C2, maybe a C3 grade. So you're dealing with a little bit lesser grade of the wood going into it, into the veneers, possibly a little bit less high quality in the glue, things like that. But the more important issue is Baltic birch is kind of a generic name that we use, and there's a bunch of different manufacturers that make Baltic birch. Basically, anything anywhere near the Baltic Sea is considered Baltic birch. But Russian birch is pretty much the best stuff that's out there. That I would consider to be a higher quality shop grade plywood. So if you're buying Baltic birch, you kind of want to know where it came from. If it came from like the Ukraine or Poland, or there's probably a Polak joke in there somewhere, but can't think of it off the top of my head. Finnish birch, great stuff. But that again is going to be a much, much higher cost, higher grade of species. So, you might be able to get away with a 1/2-inch thick door. That might be a little bit too thin, but it also probably was just the quality of the plywood that you bought. This stuff is usually meant for carcasses in cabinets where there's a lot of screws holding it into the box shape and a lot of screws holding it into the wall behind it, really restraining a lot of that movement. When you take a door like that is not restrained other than by the hinges and has gravitational forces on it, yeah, it's probably going to do bad stuff. Sorry.
Bad news. Wah wah. Okay. So what do we have for the extra coming up?
I think we were talking about books.
Books, that's right.
Intermediate and advanced books that we might recommend.
So we do have
Mark's
the
rant about it.
You want me to rant about books?
I think let's go watch your rant and we can call it a day.
Yeah, but those are more beginner books. I like this question though because he brings up a good point. Let's not talk about it now. What are you doing? Save this.
Mark likes a good book burning, basically.
I do. I really do. And a good bra burning as well.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm into that.
It's important for freedom.
As long as
Okay.
I take them off first. That would be.
Yes. So the email extra is coming up. If you are a $4 or higher patron, patreon.com/woodtalk, you can get access to that. We do one for every show. So each week you'll get an extra little piece of content there. If you want to help support the show, you can do that. Head to iTunes and leave us a review in the iTunes store. You can buy a t-shirt at twwstore.com. And again, I mentioned Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/woodtalk and sign up for one of the reward levels. We really appreciate the support. And Shannon, why don't you give them the contact info and we'll get out of here.
Cool. If you have comments, questions, or topic suggestions, or just want to meet up with Mark and Matt in Vegas and ride their hoverboard for 2 or 4 or 6, it's kind of like a clown car hoverboard. How many people can get on the hoverboard? You need to reach out to them now because it's happening soon. So send us a voicemail. Use their voicemail app. Send that to woodtalkonline@gmail.com. Use our fancy contact form at woodtalkshow.com/contact. Or just go to the website at woodtalkshow.com, go to this episode, and leave a comment at the bottom. And we're on Facebook and apparently on Instagram now. So
yeah, we are.
Go there for laughs. I don't know what that is. Instagram/Woodtalk?
Woodtalk Show.
Woodtalk Show.
All one word.
Wow.
Yep.
Way to keep with the branding. Instagram.com/Woodtalk Show. Go there and we'll see what Mark puts on there. Neither Matt nor I can be held responsible for what goes on that channel.
The first image is a picture of Nicole and I holding a newborn baby Cremona.
Yeah, that's adorable.
He's so
That was
cute.
a good surprise this morning, by the way.
It's awesome. You guys got
to like Wood Talk Show tag you in a post, and then all these people commented on a post and tag. I'm like, what the heck? What would even be up there?
Yeah,
it's like, we don't have a Wood Talk Show Instagram page.
Yep, it's
what is going on?
awesome.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So check it out, people. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.
See you. Bye.
Goodbye to you.
Okay. Skip to the weekend show. It's getting warm in here. I'm about to get a reminder of what warm really is when I go to Vegas.
I haven't even looked at the weather yet. There. Is it
Hot.
bad?
It's
You'll
hot.
be in a convention center the whole time.
Yeah, but you still got to walk around and
gotta walk there.
Got to go outside.
Got to be walking and stuff.
Stupid walking. All right. Okay, what's the weekend topic? Great advice on what to do. So, for example, not to do's. Can we kill the second half of this question though?
Oh yeah.
Feels
I
like
think
it's just
I
out of place for the weekend show.
Copied
I
copied
queued
the
it.
whole cell and moved it over.
Okay.
And didn't feel like doing any further editing.
That's so you.
Yep.
105 there right now.
All right. 105 what?
Degrees.
Oh, degrees.
Las Vegas.
It was 8:10 this morning when I put that in, so I can be forgiven.
Okay, so stop looking at the weather, Cremona. You need to come up with things for people not to do in the shop.
Look at the weather.
Yes. Do
'Cause
not
we're in the shop.
Do
Doesn't
not
matter
look at
what's
your
going
weather
on
app.
outside.
Okay. I think we're ready
It's
to
a
go.
dry heat though. It's under 20%.
what
That's
they
gonna be
say.
weird.
That's what they say. Oh, not the extra. Shoot, I opened up the wrong file. It is a dry heat, but you know what else is a dry heat? The stuff I cook my food with. My oven. And guess what? 200 degrees is still 200 degrees.
Barbecued Cremona.
Burn your face.
I don't know. Like lately, it's been like 95 and 60% humidity here, so
Oh.
it might be okay.
That's brutal.
Yep. It was 85% yesterday or 2 days ago. It was bad.
It's much easier to cool down, though, like if you're in a dry climate than that humid crap.
It probably is right now too with the thunderstorm. It's probably close to 100% right now.
Yikes.
But it's climate controlled in the shop.
Sounds fun.
What the hell are we talking about here?
We're talking about things not to do in the shop. I'll go to you last. Give you some time to think about it.
That's fine with me. Whatever. Or does that give you guys time to steal my ideas?
To use up all the things you were going to think of.
Yeah, right.
I've got 4 things written down.
What to do?
All right, doing a show. Okay. Sorry, Cremona. Here we go.
Yeah, whatever.
Welcome to the Wood Talk Weekend Show. It's time to unbutton those pants, crack open a fresh grape soda, and let the soothing sounds of Mark, Shannon, and Matt caress your ear holes.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 400 for July 21st, 2017, and it's a weekend show. We're doing a show on a weekend.
Woohoo!
I'm in Vegas.
Me too. No, wait, I'm home now.
Oh, you're
mind.
home already.
I came home already.
You left me.
I left on Thursday. Sorry. Had to go.
Left him all alone, unsupervised.
Did you leave with the concussion or without?
With.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's what I thought.
We had
a nasty fall you had there.
We had a rumble on the
tattoo.
strip. It was pretty terrible.
Face tattoo.
Yeah, I got a new face tattoo. It's a whole thing. Hopefully it'll pass as a birthmark. Okay, so we got a question here from Eric, who spells his name with a C and a K because he's a belt and suspenders kind of guy. He says, "Hey, Mark, Shannon, and Matt, a.k.a. Goomba, Gorilla, and Giggler." All G's. That's actually pretty good. I like where that one's going. He says, I've got a question to share with your audience, one that's more of an advice question. To start, you guys give lots of great advice on what to do to solve woodworking problems or deliver improved results. In your experience, what are your thoughts on things you should never do, never ever be done? Not just from a safety factor, but just from good practice. For example, never put an end grain board through the planer. You guys rock. Wood Talk is what keeps me sane when driving in the crazy Boston traffic. Okay, so the funny thing is that particular example kind of has an asterisk on it. You know, the end grain through the planer thing. There are ways to do it to make it safe, but generally speaking, unless you know what those ways are, you probably shouldn't do it. Probably a bad idea.
I did it for years without knowing I wasn't supposed to do it and never had a problem. And now, now
you're terrified
to do it.
Yeah, as you should be.
Statistically, something bad will happen because I did it so many times without a problem.
Yeah, you just
my numbers
got
up,
lucky.
Basically, I reached my rad limit. It's over.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I wrote a couple of these down. Hopefully Matt will think of something because he's unprepared. You want to go first, though?
Oh, no, definitely not.
You want time to refine it a little bit? Okay. So, in the same vein that I do feel like you can say never, there is just never an instance that I think that this is smart or safe, is running end grain over the jointer.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And that's as someone who has done that before. So
yeah, I've seen it done from across the shop, and everything went into slow motion as that board kind of clot. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. It's in Chuck Binder's school, actually. It was terrifying to watch. It wasn't Chuck doing it. It was one of his students. I think I just threw Chuck under the bus.
It was Chuck. It was Chuck saying, "Here, guys, don't do this."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
Yeah. So that's I think a big no-no. Shannon, you got one?
Yeah. Don't sharpen on your workbench. It's a little tamer, but unless you put down all kinds of protective stuff, I just had a student who had to resurface his entire bench because he was sharpening saws and stuff on his workbench and put all kinds of fun metal filings and swarf and crap into the wood of his workbench, which just eats your plane blades later on and your chisels and gets into the wood you're working on and affects the finish. And yeah, you want to, if you don't have a separate sharpening area, put down something, get some sort of like lipped tray that will keep the crap in, so that it doesn't land all over your bench.
Interesting. I've got several substantial like metal swarf stains from sharpening on my bench because I do it all the time.
The other thing is we tend to kind of, we're more hands-on on a workbench, and you may sweep the shavings off your workbench or whatever. There's metal filings in there. That crap gets in your hands. Then your eye starts to itch, and it's bad news.
Oh,
it's bad.
That's the worst.
Keep that stuff off the workbench.
Okay, Giggler, what you got?
Measure.
Never measure?
Never measure?
Never measure.
Okay.
Don't do it. We've talked about that before. I sound like me, like maybe quite like a never do it, but do it as little as possible.
Okay.
Like that? You like that?
I'm still processing it. I always.
Okay, I'll give it some time.
Because I always measure at the beginning. I've got like certain things, but yours is a little bit of a different situation because you have a material selection process that allows you to not be as picky about your measurements. You can kind of let the measurements dictate where the project goes. You know what I mean? But for me, it's like I've designed it. I got to get pretty close to these numbers, so I at least have to measure a little bit. And then I drop the measuring stuff once things get rolling.
Fine.
That just figures if he runs out of wood, he'll just go cut down another tree.
I got another one back there.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's see. So I think I have another one here for you. Okay, this one is something that not quite fine woodworking, but how many times have you seen someone, or maybe you yourself, you put a board, and this is something I did early on in my woodworking, put a large board on two sawhorses and take my circular saw to cut it in half, and I cut it in the middle. And then the two pieces fall into the blade, and then you get one of those ring things where the circular saw wants to come back at your face. That is something I think that is not quite obvious to like a new woodworker. So if you go to use a circular saw to cut down your big lumber and you go, okay, well, I'm going to put a lot of support on this, it doesn't quite work that way. You've got to have the ability for one piece to drop out of the way while the other piece kind of remains stable. Or, if you can somehow stabilize both pieces so they don't move, that's fine. But the offcut, you can't have a gap in the middle where you're cutting because they just come together and pinch the blade and all hell breaks loose.
In that example, I was thinking of going the other way. If you have too much weight hanging off the end, that thing comes right up and hits you in the face.
That could be bad too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why that whole insulation idea is so good, because you get 100% support under that sheet good, and you can cut into it all you want. Because the flip side of that is don't try to support it with your hand either. Like, it does not matter how much you think you're holding it level.
Yeah.
Now when it pinches, your hand is really close to that blade that just suddenly got pinched. Yeah. I've been there, done that. Yeah.
You guys got any more?
Well, in that same vein, never, ever, 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 ever hold with your hand the workpiece that you're currently chiseling or sawing into.
Good one.
Yes. I know that sounds kind of obvious.
Yes.
But even holding it behind the blade, just don't do it. I've had too many really close calls. I've got a scar in my hand where there were 4 stitches where I was using a really, really fine fret saw blade. What's a fret saw blade going to do to me? Well, stitches later, that's what the fret saw blade did to me, because I hit a soft spot in the wood and suddenly that fret saw blade jumped about an inch forward in a second. And,
yikes.
It could have been so much worse, but it was just one of those things where I happened to be holding the wood that I was sawing into. I've caught myself like about to take a chisel swipe with my hand anywhere within 180 degrees of the cutting edge of that. And you quickly have to stop and don't do that. So bad news. Lock it down, clamp it down, work against a stop, do something. Never, ever, ever.
In a similar vein, I was doing something the other day, sitting on a shop bench, and I just needed to kind of chisel the corner off of something, and I did it on my knee, and then it just suddenly clicked in my head, you know what, I should never leave my knee. Like, I never want to use my knee as a workbench.
No.
Generally just not a good idea.
It tends to go badly.
Let's see. I got another one here. Never leave an offcut trapped between the blade and the fence. So we're talking about table saw usage here. That could be a big problem. And another one a lot of people don't think about, but you should really have a hard and fast rule about this, is never try to remove an offcut. And this goes for any power tool, really. Never try to remove an offcut while the blade is still moving.
Oh, man.
I mean, how many times, even just like the bandsaw seems like one, like, it's not going to hurt anything, I'm going to move it. But all it takes is just one little thing to pull your finger closer, or you misjudge where the blade is, which is very easy to do if you're not paying enough attention. And next thing you know, your finger is in that blade.
Yeah, one of the 2 table saw accidents I had in my life was reaching not over the blade but around the blade to get a small offcut, because that's the next thing would be never leave it trapped, but also don't leave them like hovering back behind the blade, as they're like vibrating around, like those old the old football game where you turn it on and the guys go bing and they vibrate all over the board. Yeah, that's what they were doing in the back. A little piece of maple. And it started to vibrate like kind of near the blade. I'm like, oh, I should move that. I reached well around it and picked it up, and I didn't have a good hold on it, and it dropped into the spinning blade. And thank God I had eye protection on, because that's exactly where it went. And it cracked the lens on the eye protection. And it was one of those like, okay, I'm done for the day. Turn everything off.
Yeah.
Go sit in a dark corner. 27 Hail Marys. Yeah, it was bad. It's bad news.
Jeez. Cremona, anything else? Any parting wisdom?
I feel like these are all skewing towards safety.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah, they don't have to be.
Give us a technique sort of based one.
That's why I think it's harder, because it's really easy to say like, oh, never do these things related to safety, but like,
I got a technique one. It's been kind of resonating in me lately. When you are using a mallet on a chisel, don't wail on the thing. Like, I don't care if it's a 17-pound mallet, a 2-pound mallet, or a 4-ounce mallet. There is a point in which the wedge stops doing its job. It's driven into the wood so far that you hear that pitch change and it goes up and it stops moving. Don't wail on it harder. That's bad news. And I see so many people doing this, and this happens a lot when people try to chop mortises by hand. It's like they're trying to chop the whole 1.5-inch depth in one swipe. And then the chisel gets stuck really, really deep in there, which goes to the next point. The deeper you're driving that chisel into the wood, the lighter you need to be tapping it, because it's so easy to wedge that thing in place. And then you now have rail and style with chisel growing out of it.
How about if you are trying to precisely chisel to a line, either a cut or a pencil line? Never start, especially if it go to a reasonable depth, never start right on the line, because you will most likely blow right past your line just from the pressure. Okay.
Absolutely. It's the rule of halves. I always try to remove half the waste between the line and the waste, and then half the waste again, and then half the waste again. And obviously you would never get to your line.
Theoretically, you would be there forever and you would never get there.
Forever. But when you get to the point where you can't get that chisel to register cleanly, then you're good to remove it.
Yeah, very nice. And I've got one more piece of advice, parting with you, with the audience here.
Never, ever listen to Wood Talk after midnight.
Nope, pretty close.
One of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this: never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
That is a classic right there. Okay, well, thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Matt's so tired.
Come on, Matt. Wake up.
Oh,
I got to put Matt down for a nap after the show. Yeah. Give him a little baba.
I'm a little baby.
Sing him a little
baby,
song.
man.
We've put Matt down enough in this show.
That's true.
Cut him some slack.
It's kind of a habit. It's just a bad habit. All right, let's do our extra
show. To get
show.
sympathy subscribers on YouTube because of how much we put him down.
Yep. You're welcome, Matt.
Hey, take it.
Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. Live, we're going to do our email extra. All those nice people. We will talk to you guys later on.
You forgot to mention that was show number 400.
Oh, was it?
It was. Look at that.
That's amazing.